Is it a good idea to say I want to marry somebody like my mother or I want to marry somebody like my father? How is it like being married to your mama's boy? How would it be being married to your daddy's girl? You're dealing with your wife who is also her dad, or the other way around. Sanibona ninjani kodwa Vusumuzi Nkosi Dlamini kunendlula nje salobamba once more. Hlubile omuhle. Welcome to my space. Well, thank you for welcoming me into your space. This is Relating Relationships, and you know what? We are addicted to good conversations. So today I'm on my own. And I thought, you know what is it that you can talk about? And I just wanted to trigger a conversation. And this conversation is interesting because it's a conversation that I've had with a young lady that we were just discussing issues of marriage and stuff. And I realized that this conversation that I've had with her, I've had it with a few other ladies as well, who are saying, hey, I want to get married. One day I want to be married, I want to have my own family, I want to have my children, and. Which is a good thing. Now, the interesting part is every time when you talk about you want to get married, you must be married to somebody. And that's the interesting part about marriage. There's somebody that you're going to marry. How do you choose them? Who should they be like? What characteristics must they have? Should the characteristics be more physical? Is it interesting when it's somebody who, like I've heard so many people saying, I want somebody who's intelligent. Does intelligent make marriage work? Now, this is what I want to say. So, when I'm talking to this young lady, she says something. She says, you know what, I want to marry somebody like my father. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to want to be married to somebody who is good, who has shown you love, who has cared for you, who's loved you without any conditions, who has been there for you, supported you. And in our society, we celebrate fathers like that, to say, well done, you're doing good. For your daughter to say, I want to get married to somebody like you, that means you've done something good. But you've done something good as a father. And that's what I was saying to her. I said to her, your father has been a good father. Do you want to know your father as a husband? Because if you say you want to marry somebody like your father, what exactly is it that you want to marry, that you see as a good thing in your father? Now, the conversation that I had, and she spoke about how the father has been always there for her, how the father was supportive even when she had to attend school activities from that age. How my father is, when I come back from work now, because she's working, and I come into the house and he asks me how am I doing, and he listens attentively, doesn't disrupt me. He's a good father. And I said to her, are you sure you want to get married to your father? I said, yeah, no, I want to marry somebody like my father. I said, okay, let's talk about this. And this is the scenario that I was painting for her. Because where we were at an event, and it was an event where now, you know, we're having fun talking to people, and you can see she's enjoying even the conversation. And I'm saying, if your father calls right now and says to you, what are you doing? Stop whatever you're doing. I need your help. I need you to come here. How would you react to that? And she says, yeah, no, I'll stop what I'm doing. That's my father. I'll stop what I'm doing now. I know this is nice, but then I'll rather go help my father. And I said, if your husband had to call you now, if you're married, and said to you, hey, stop whatever you're doing, come over here, I need 1, 2, 3, and 4, would you react exactly the same? And obviously, she cannot say, no, I would not. But her answer and the hesitation in how she answered me made me realize, and ultimately she also realized, that she would not just drop everything and run. Why? Because you want to marry somebody like your father. So what's the how realistic is that you can marry somebody like your father? Because you know what, I've seen in my life good fathers who are terrible husbands. And is there terrible husbands? Is there terrible fathers who are good husbands? So, and this is a conversation that I would like to hear from you guys. What is your view? Somebody says, I don't want to marry somebody like my father. Why? Because he was not a good father. Maybe he was a good husband. So these are the things that are very interesting when I talk to a whole lot of people, specifically ladies, who say they want to get into a serious relationship. And this is what they're looking for. And I've heard somebody who says, I want to marry somebody like my brother. Yes, he's a very good brother. Ask your brother's girlfriend why he broke up with him. And then decide if you would really want to marry somebody like your brother. So what am I saying? I'm having this conversation. What am I saying? And I'm saying, I'm saying is, I've learned that we need to be able to separate certain, what's the word? Not duties. Maybe let me use the word role. Yes, that's right, role. We need to separate them. You need to separate the role that somebody plays to you as a father, where not as a person who says, I want this. I want to have this kind of relationship. The role that your father plays is different, completely different. No matter how good it is, it's different from the way that the role that he will play as a husband. The role that a brother plays. I've got 3 sisters who are very protective of me. And they play their role as sisters very well. I'm protective of them. And I believe I play the role of a brother very well. But my sister, I remember, she was saying, I would never marry somebody like you. She would not marry somebody like me. And she had her reasons. And one of them was, which I'm too strict. I'm too uptight. But when I define the roles, it makes it easier for me. You know, when I was talking about this conversation, and I was talking to my producer sitting behind the camera, and he said something, and I wrote it down. He says, maybe she wants to marry someone, or wants to marry a husband who would be a good father to their children, father them like her father fathered him. That makes sense. That makes sense. But even then, you need to be able to realize that you cannot put pressure on somebody else. Like we spoke about background check, that sometimes it's possible that you want something from somebody that doesn't know how to even give it. So, in everything that we do, we need to define those roles and understand the roles. If I am a brother, I must be a good brother. If I'm a father, I must be a good father. But the one that who receives must understand that this person is my father. He treats me this way because he's my father. But for me to expect that from somebody else, it might just be too much. But then if you say to me, I want to marry somebody like my father because I've seen how my father treats my mother, then now we've got something to talk about. Because now you're talking about how your father is playing a role in front of your eyes of being a husband to your mother. Now you're talking about something else. the way that he treated my mother, the way that they had a conversation, or whatever it is that you see in that relationship, then now we are talking. So I said to her, I said, if you really want to marry your father, please sit down with your mother and ask your mother how has your father been as a husband, and then you'll get the truth, and then maybe then you will really understand that there is a difference in the roles that we play. Let me balance the equation here, and because I don't want to come across as being harsh to ladies, right? Even though this conversation was triggered by the conversation I had with this lady. But I've also had a conversation with some guys who says they want to marry somebody like their mother. And you know, it's so interesting because when somebody says I want to marry somebody like my father, it's acceptable. You know, like there's this acceptance of the statement. When somebody says they want to get married to somebody like their mother, then it's like, wow. Now the ladies, they're like, you want to marry me, and I must be like your mother. I think, and I actually, when I said this, it put so much stuff in my head, and I know it's probably done the same thing to you. Do you want to marry somebody who says they want you to be like their mother? Guys who say, no, my mother is a good person. My mother did this for me. You know, I want to marry somebody like my mother. And usually also happens when the father is not there and the mother is the one who's bringing up the children. And this child says, I want to marry somebody like my mother, who is resilient, who can bari utara tipa mobu khaling or something like that. I'm trying my suit, man. But you know, would you want to marry as a lady? As a guy, would you want to marry a lady who says, I want you to be like my father? So to the guys who says my mother is a good person, my mother is this, I want to marry somebody like my mother. The same, maybe you need to sit down with your father and say, Mama Ojwang, how is mommy as a wife? When you're not able to give her what she expects, when you're not able to deliver, how has it been going through the ups and downs? Mama Kimutojwang. Then your father would give you a picture. And again, if you define the roles, then you start realizing that, you know what, I don't want to marry somebody like my mom. But maybe the guy as well can say, you know what, I want to marry somebody who would mother my children the way that my mother mothered me. Then that's understandable. Now we are balancing the equation. And this drives to even more conversations, and I'll get somebody to come and have this conversation, and I would love for you to comment and tell me what you think about it, because this is going to bring a topic that we will sit down and talk about. How is it being married to a mama's boy? How would it be being married to a daddy's girl? The one would say, na papa in this situation would have done 1, 2, 3, and 4. My dad in this situation would have done 1, 2, 3, and 4. You make a decision in the home and say we go in this direction, and then she comes back and says, no, Papa said we should not do what we have agreed to do. Let's do it this way, because my father, I want to be married to somebody like my father. Or somebody who says, why don't you cook like my mother? My mother can cook this stew better than you. And you see how it is when you change the roles, and now you start realizing the reality of, is it a good idea to say I want to marry somebody like my mother, or I want to marry somebody like my father? When you take yourself and put yourself in that relationship where now you're dealing with a wife who is not only your wife, but you're dealing with your wife who is also her dad, or the other way around. So we would like to have that conversation. And even in that conversation, the interesting thing is when you start realizing as well in a relationship, which one my wife who has dealt with, and we're still going to deal with so much more about background check, is when you understand, or why is this man a mama's boy? Why is this lady a daddy's girl? When you have that understanding, a mama's boy can be married to a daddy's girl and they can have a beautiful marriage. That should be enough to make you think. My request to you is, after listening to this episode, I know you guys will have conversation with your friends, your girlfriends, my request is, can I be part of that conversation as well? Like I've allowed you to be part of this conversation. I would love to be part of it. Can I hear it in the comments? Can we have that discussion? I would like to hear what is your friend saying. Do they think I'm crazy? Are they agreeing with what I'm saying? Let's have this conversation, guys. So that when I come back, I can come back with somebody that we can have a discussion based on what you guys have said. So that this conversation is not one-sided. Because if I'm the only one who's speaking, I'm just telling you what I think, my ideology, my perception. And I know that it is all limited. So please join us in the comments. This is Desmond Vusumuzi Nkosi. This is Relating Relationship, and we are addicted to good conversation. Can we have that conversation, please, in the comments? I'll be waiting and watching. Thank you very much. See you.